I'm Edith Stoic, your space for raw conversations and life lessons. Let's get real. If toxic people keep showing up in your life, it's not just their fault. It's yours for giving them space they never earned. But that ends now. I'm going to show you exactly how to take back your power and leave them completely irrelevant. See, toxic people don't magically appear out of thin air. They creep in through the cracks in your boundaries, feeding off your energy, your reactions, your silence. And most people, they let it happen. Not because they're weak, but because they haven't faced one brutal truth. You can't change them, but you can outsmart them. This video is your wake-up call. I'm going to break down no fluff, battle-tested strategies to shut down toxic behavior without losing your mind or your peace. And by the time we're done, you won't just feel stronger, you'll finally understand something powerful. Your peace was never theirs to take. It's always been yours to protect. Forgiving, but not forgetting. The journey of freeing yourself, not enabling harm. Forgiveness is often considered one of the highest virtues, but it's not always easy to practice, especially when the hurt runs deep. All of us have been wounded by others at some point in our lives, whether by family, friends, colleagues, or even strangers. When forgiveness is discussed, many people mistakenly equate it with letting go, moving on, or even acting as if it never happened. However, the truth is that forgiveness is much more nuanced than that. Forgiveness is not forgetting. The phrase forgiving but not forgetting might seem contradictory at first, but it holds a profound meaning. Forgiveness is not about erasing the past, dismissing the emotions involved, or pretending the pain never existed. Instead, forgiveness is about facing the wound, accepting that it occurred, and choosing not to allow it to control your future. However, because you've been hurt, you remember the lesson learned from the experience, so you can avoid repeating the same mistakes. For example, if someone repeatedly betrays your trust by lying, manipulating, or exploiting your kindness, your choice to forgive does not mean you should continue the relationship as if nothing ever happened. Forgiveness does not imply allowing them to harm you again. Forgiveness is for your own peace, not for the other person. Many people harbor resentment, anger, and hatred for years, even for a lifetime. The painful truth is that while you carry this burden every day, the person who harmed you may have forgotten, or worse, not even cared. In such cases, the resentment doesn't punish them. It imprisons you in the emotional prison you've built for yourself. Therefore, forgiving is not a gift for the person who hurt you. It is a liberation for yourself. It is about letting go of the emotional weight so you can move forward with peace in your heart. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones along your journey in life, each stone representing an insult, a betrayal, or a hurtful word. The longer you walk, the more exhausted you become. Forgiveness is the act of slowly removing each stone from your backpack. You cannot forget that you were hurt, but you can choose to no longer carry those stones. Forgiving does not mean weakness. It means strength. Forgiveness is often misunderstood as a sign of weakness, or as if you are letting someone off the hook. Some might view it as an invitation for the person who hurt you to take advantage of you again. But the truth is, forgiveness requires incredible strength. It is a conscious decision to rise above the pain and the bitterness. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional chains that have kept you stuck. Many people mistakenly believe that holding on to anger and resentment makes them stronger or more justified in their pain. But in reality, it only keeps them trapped in the past. When you forgive, you are not saying that what happened was okay. You are simply choosing not to let it control you any longer. It is an act of emotional freedom and strength. Learning from the past, the importance of remembering. Not forgetting doesn't mean holding on to resentment, but rather keeping the lessons learned from the experience. It's about acknowledging that while the past cannot be changed, you can learn from it. When you choose to forgive, you can use your memories as a source of growth, rather than as a way to rehash past pain. If someone has wronged you repeatedly, remembering that fact helps you to recognize patterns and set boundaries in the future. It doesn't mean you're holding a grudge. It means you're staying vigilant and protecting yourself from repeating the same mistakes. It's about wisdom, not bitterness. For example, if a person has betrayed you in a relationship or taken advantage of your trust, you may choose to forgive them. But that doesn't mean you should let your guard down. In fact, remembering what happened helps you to be more aware and discerning when it comes to future interactions, so you don't find yourself in a similar situation again. Setting boundaries, an act of self-respect. Forgiving someone but refusing to allow them to repeat their harmful actions requires clear boundaries. Many people, after being forgiven, may believe that they can behave in the same hurtful way again without consequences. This is when you need to show them, and show yourself, that forgiveness does not mean enabling toxic behavior. Setting boundaries, whether it's cutting off contact, limiting interaction, or deciding to end the relationship entirely, is not an act of revenge. It is an act of self-respect. You don't have to allow people who disrespect you to remain in your life simply because of past relationships or shared history. Boundaries are a form of protection for your emotional well-being. When you forgive, you are not giving them permission to hurt you again. Instead, you are asserting that you are worthy of respect and that your peace and happiness matter. Forgiveness is not always a public declaration. Many people think that forgiveness must come with a grand public declaration. I forgive you. However, true forgiveness is often an internal process. It's reflected in how you no longer allow resentment to control your emotions, in how you no longer react explosively when the person's name is mentioned, and in how you no longer let their actions affect your mood or peace of mind. You can forgive without ever telling the other person. You can forgive, but still choose not to continue the relationship. You can forgive, but still remember the hurt. Not to dwell on it, but to protect yourself and avoid repeating it. Forgiveness is not about giving the other person a free pass to hurt you again. It's about choosing to live without carrying the emotional burden of anger, bitterness, or resentment. It's about reclaiming your power and your peace. Conclusion: forgiveness is freedom. Remembering is protection. Forgiving but not forgetting is not a threat. It is a declaration of awareness and self-respect. It's about choosing to forgive, to free yourself from the shackles of resentment, while remembering the lesson so that you don't repeat the same mistakes in the future. You cannot control other people's actions, but you can choose how you respond. In that choice, forgiveness becomes a courageous act of letting go, while remembering becomes an act of wisdom. Both are essential for healing and personal growth. Forgiveness is a powerful tool for emotional freedom, but it requires you to be mindful of your boundaries and remember the lessons learned along the way. By doing so, you protect your peace, your happiness, and your emotional well-being, controlling their access, setting clear boundaries, and limiting interaction with negative people. In life, one of the most important skills we can develop is the ability to set boundaries, particularly when it comes to dealing with negative people. Whether it's a toxic family member, a colleague, or even a so-called friend, these individuals can have a profound impact on our emotional well-being. By learning to control their access to us, set clear boundaries, and limit interactions, we can protect our mental health while maintaining the relationships that matter. It's not about severing ties completely, but reducing their influence in our lives, so we don't get caught up in unnecessary drama. The importance of setting boundaries. Boundaries are the invisible lines we draw in our relationships to protect ourselves from emotional, mental, or physical harm. They help us define what we are comfortable with and what we are not. Setting boundaries with negative people is crucial because it prevents them from overstepping, taking advantage of our time and energy, or causing unnecessary stress in our lives. When we fail to set boundaries, we risk losing our sense of self-worth, becoming drained, and feeling stuck in unhealthy dynamics. Negative individuals often thrive on chaos, manipulation, and drama, and if we allow them too much access to our lives, they will continue to influence us in ways that are unhealthy. Setting boundaries allows us to regain control of our lives, preserve our energy, and ensure that we're engaging in relationships that are uplifting and supportive. Controlling their access. Controlling the access. Negative people have to our lives doesn't mean shutting them out entirely. It means being intentional about how and when we allow them into our space. This can take many forms depending on the nature of the relationship and the level of negativity involved. For example, if a family member or friend is consistently negative or emotionally draining, we may choose to limit how often we interact with them. Instead of allowing them to monopolize our time and energy, we can create a schedule or structure that ensures we are only spending time with them in a way that feels manageable. By controlling their access, we also prevent them from constantly pulling us into their negativity. In the workplace, controlling access might mean setting professional boundaries, such as limiting personal conversations or refusing to engage in office gossip. By doing so, we protect ourselves from being dragged into negative dynamics that can affect our productivity and well-being. Setting clear boundaries. Setting clear boundaries is essential when it comes to protecting ourselves from toxic individuals. It's important to remember that boundaries are not meant to be rigid walls, but rather guidelines for healthy interactions. When we set boundaries, we communicate our needs and limits to others in a way that is respectful yet firm. A key part of setting boundaries is learning to say no without guilt. Negative people often rely on our inability to say no to maintain their control. By saying no to things that drain us, whether it's attending a toxic family gathering or engaging in an unproductive conversation, we are asserting our right to protect our energy and time. Setting boundaries also involves being clear about the types of behaviors we won't tolerate. For example, we might tell a friend that we don't want to engage in conversations that revolve around drama or negativity. We can be firm but kind, letting them know that while we value the relationship, we are not willing to participate in behavior that affects our mental well-being. It's important to note that setting boundaries with negative people often requires consistency. The first time we set a boundary, it may feel uncomfortable or even challenging. Negative individuals may push back, test limits, or try to manipulate us into letting them in again. But by holding our ground and being consistent, we teach them that we are serious about maintaining our boundaries and that we won't tolerate behavior that is harmful to our well-being. Limiting interaction. While setting boundaries is about defining the parameters of a relationship, limiting interaction takes it a step further by reducing the frequency and intensity of contact with negative individuals. This can be particularly important when someone's negativity is impacting our mental health. By limiting the time we spend with these individuals, we reduce the chance of getting drawn into their drama or negativity. Limiting interaction doesn't mean being rude or cutting people off entirely. Instead, it means being mindful of how often we engage and ensuring that we're not giving away too much of our time or energy. For example, if a colleague is consistently negative, we can choose to engage in brief, professional conversations and avoid personal topics. If a friend is constantly complaining or creating drama, we can limit our time together by opting for more structured, positive interactions. One of the most important things to remember when limiting interaction with negative people is that we don't need to feel guilty about it. We have the right to protect our own mental health, and reducing exposure to negativity is a healthy way to maintain balance in our lives. It's not about punishing the other person. It's about taking care of ourselves and ensuring that we're surrounding ourselves with people who lift us up, not bring us down. Avoiding drama. One of the hallmarks of negative individuals is their ability to draw us into drama, whether it's gossip, conflict, or emotional manipulation. They thrive on stirring up trouble and dragging others into their web. To protect ourselves, it's essential that we avoid participating in their drama. This may involve changing the way we respond to them. Instead of engaging in arguments or responding to inflammatory comments, we can choose to disengage or redirect the conversation to more positive topics. For example, if someone starts complaining about their personal issues, we can acknowledge their feelings but steer the conversation toward a more constructive subject. Avoiding drama also means not taking on the responsibility of solving their problems. Negative people often seek validation or sympathy, and they may try to make us feel obligated to fix their situations. By avoiding this trap, we set a clear boundary that their drama is not our responsibility to manage. Additionally, we can limit our involvement in group settings where negativity and drama are common. If we know that certain family members or friends tend to create conflict, we can choose to minimize our participation in those gatherings or set limits on the amount of time we spend in those environments, reducing their influence. While it may not always be possible to completely cut negative people out of our lives, we can take steps to reduce their influence on us. This can be done by minimizing the impact they have on our emotions and energy. One way to do this is by practicing mindfulness and emotional detachment. When we learn to detach emotionally from negative individuals, we can maintain our peace of mind even in the face of their negativity. This doesn't mean we become cold or indifferent. Rather, it means we stop allowing their behavior to affect us as deeply. By maintaining emotional distance, we free ourselves from the grip of their drama and are better able to protect our well-being. Additionally, we can seek out positive influences to counterbalance the negativity, surrounding ourselves with people who uplift us. Engage in positive conversations and share our values can help create a buffer against the negativity that others may try to impose on us. Conclusion: learning to control the access negative people have to our lives, set clear boundaries, and limit interactions is an essential skill for maintaining emotional well-being. While it may not always be easy, it's necessary for protecting ourselves from toxic behavior and ensuring that we can focus on the relationships that truly matter. By controlling access, setting boundaries, limiting interaction, avoiding drama, and reducing the influence of negative individuals, we can cultivate a healthier, more peaceful life. It's not about cutting people off completely, but rather creating space to protect our energy and maintain a sense of balance. In the end, setting boundaries is an act of self-care, and by doing so, we empower ourselves to live more fulfilling, positive lives, knowing when to leave. The best way is to walk away, even from family if they continuously cause harm. Protecting yourself is not selfish, but self-respect. In life, we are often taught to value relationships, whether with family, friends, or romantic partners. We are encouraged to forgive, to work through difficulties, and to remain committed, even when things get tough. However, there are times when staying in a relationship can be harmful to our mental, emotional, and even physical well-being. It can be challenging to accept, but sometimes the best course of action is to walk away, especially when the relationship is toxic. Leaving isn't a sign of failure or selfishness. It is a form of self-respect. There is no rule that says we must continue to tolerate harm or toxicity from anyone, even if they are family. Relationships, no matter how close or important, should not come at the cost of your peace, health, or sense of self. In this essay, we will explore the importance of recognizing when to leave, why it's sometimes necessary to distance yourself from family members, and how protecting yourself is not an act of selfishness, but a way to show self-respect. The dangers of toxic relationships. Before we delve into the reasons why leaving is sometimes the best choice, it's important to define what constitutes a toxic relationship. Toxic relationships are those in which one or both parties consistently behave in ways that harm, belittle, or manipulate the other. The negative behavior may not always be overt. It can manifest in subtle forms, like passive aggressiveness, constant criticism, neglect, emotional manipulation, or even physical abuse. In these types of relationships, the emotional toll can be profound. Over time, a toxic relationship can lead to feelings of worthlessness, anxiety, depression, and a diminished sense of self-worth. You might find yourself constantly walking on eggshells, trying to appease the other person, or sacrificing your own needs to maintain peace. The cumulative effect of these behaviors is draining and detrimental to your mental health. The misconception often arises that we must endure this kind of treatment in order to preserve the relationship. However, this is where self-respect and self-protection come into play. The longer we stay in toxic situations, the more damage we incur. It's essential to recognize the warning signs and understand when it's time to step away for the sake of our well-being. When is it time to leave? One of the hardest decisions we may face is knowing when it's time to leave a relationship, especially when that relationship is with family. There is often societal pressure to maintain family bonds, even when those bonds are unhealthy. But it's essential to ask yourself some critical questions to determine whether staying is worth the emotional and mental cost. Do you feel drained or exhausted after interactions with this person? If your time with someone consistently leaves you feeling emotionally drained, unhappy, or exhausted, this is a major red flag. Healthy relationships should uplift you, not deplete you. Do you feel disrespected or belittled? Constant criticism, put-downs, or lack of appreciation are signs that the relationship may be toxic. When someone you care about continuously undermines your self-worth, it's a signal that they don't respect you. Are you afraid to express your true feelings or needs? In a toxic relationship, you might find yourself silencing your emotions or hiding your true thoughts in fear of conflict or rejection. Healthy relationships are built on open communication and mutual respect, not fear. Do you feel like your boundaries are constantly being violated? Respecting boundaries is crucial for any relationship. If someone repeatedly crosses your boundaries without apology or consideration, it's time to reevaluate the relationship. Is the relationship causing more harm than good? Ultimately, you must weigh the impact the relationship has on your life. If the relationship brings more negativity than positivity, it may be time to let go. It's important to remember that leaving a toxic relationship is not about giving up or abandoning someone in need. It's about recognizing that you cannot change or fix someone who is not willing to change themselves. Sometimes, walking away is the best way to protect your own mental and emotional health. Leaving family, a difficult but necessary choice. Leaving a family member, particularly one who is close to you, is never an easy decision. There's an inherent pressure to uphold family bonds, no matter the circumstances. We are often taught that family should always come first, and this cultural narrative can make it even harder to cut ties when necessary. However, no matter how much love you have for a family member, it doesn't give them the right to mistreat you. Family doesn't automatically entitle someone to treat you poorly, and they must still earn your respect. If a family member is consistently toxic, disrespectful, or harmful to you, it's essential to recognize that you have the right to distance yourself from them. It's worth noting that cutting ties with family doesn't always mean completely severing the relationship. In some cases, it can mean establishing clear boundaries, limiting contact, or reducing the time spent with them, especially if they continually cause harm. It might also mean setting emotional boundaries, such as refusing to engage in certain conversations or topics that trigger pain or manipulation. The importance of self-respect. When you choose to leave a toxic relationship or distance yourself from a harmful family member, you are practicing self-respect. Protecting yourself emotionally, mentally, and physically is not a selfish act. It is an act of self-care and self-love. It's about acknowledging that your well-being matters and that you deserve to be treated with kindness, respect, and dignity. Many people struggle with the idea of putting themselves first, especially in the context of family. There is a pervasive belief that putting others' needs before your own is virtuous. However, constantly prioritizing others at the expense of your own health is neither healthy nor sustainable. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Taking care of yourself first allows you to be more present, compassionate, and supportive in other areas of your life. Self-respect means honoring your boundaries, listening to your emotions, and making choices that prioritize your mental and emotional health. It is not about being selfish or uncaring, but rather recognizing that you have the right to protect your peace. Moving forward, finding healing and peace. Once you've made the decision to leave or distance yourself from a toxic relationship, it's important to focus on healing. Walking away is often the first step, but healing from the emotional wounds of the relationship can take time. Self-care, therapy, and surrounding yourself with positive, supportive people are essential for this process. Remember that healing is a journey, and it's okay to seek help along the way. It's also important to forgive yourself for any guilt or self-blame you may feel. You made a choice to protect your well-being, and that decision is something to be proud of. In conclusion, knowing when to leave a relationship, especially a family relationship, is an act of self-respect, not selfishness. Protecting your mental, emotional, and physical well-being should always come first. When someone's behavior is consistently harmful to you, it is okay to walk away, even if it's difficult. Your peace and happiness are worth the effort, and you deserve to be in relationships that uplift and support you. Protecting your energy. Toxic people often blame you, but don't believe it. When you let go of negative relationships, you'll make room for authentic, positive ones in life. Our energy is one of the most precious resources we have. It's what fuels our day-to-day interactions, decisions, and overall well-being. We expend energy in many ways, whether it's through work, relationships, or personal growth. Yet, there are certain people and situations that drain this energy, leaving us feeling exhausted, frustrated, and emotionally depleted. These are often the toxic people we encounter in our lives. Toxic people have the unique ability to manipulate, control, and sometimes even guilt-trip others into taking on their emotional burdens. One of their most common tactics is blaming others for their own negative behaviors, which can be particularly damaging to our sense of self-worth. However, it's crucial to understand that toxic people's blame is often not about you. It's a reflection of their own unresolved issues, insecurities, or dysfunctions. Learning to protect your energy from these individuals is a necessary step toward reclaiming your peace and making room for more authentic, positive relationships that nourish your soul. Recognizing toxic people. Toxic people come in many forms. They could be family members, friends, coworkers, or even romantic partners. One thing they all share is the ability to manipulate situations to make you feel responsible for their negativity or shortcomings. The first step in protecting your energy is recognizing these individuals and their behaviors. Some common traits of toxic people include blaming others. They rarely take responsibility for their actions. If something goes wrong, it's always someone else's fault, especially yours. Gaslighting. Toxic individuals often manipulate situations and make you question your own perception of reality. They might make you feel like you're overreacting or being too sensitive when you set boundaries. Constant drama. There's always a crisis or drama happening in their lives, and they expect you to fix it or be part of it. Emotional manipulation. They might use guilt, shame, or other emotional tactics to get you to do what they want, or to make you feel responsible for their happiness. Self-centeredness. Everything revolves around them. They don't show interest in your life or needs, and they often dismiss your feelings or concerns. Recognizing these behaviors in others is essential. The sooner you can identify a toxic person, the sooner you can start taking steps to protect your energy and emotional health. The danger of taking on their blame. Toxic people often make you feel like you're the problem, when in fact, they are the ones who are perpetuating negativity. It might start with small criticisms that evolve into larger accusations or manipulations. For example, a toxic friend might constantly make you feel guilty for not spending enough time with them, even though you are already stretched thin with other commitments. Or a family member might blame you for their unhappiness, using phrases like, "If only you had done this differently, I wouldn't be in this mess." When you internalize these accusations, it can erode your self-esteem and leave you questioning your own actions. This guilt can be overwhelming and draining, especially when you know deep down that you're not the cause of their issues. Toxic people want to shift the focus away from their own flaws and make you feel responsible for their emotional well-being. This dynamic can be exhausting, but it's important to remember that you are not the problem. In these situations, it's crucial to take a step back and ask yourself whether the blame being placed on you is truly justified. Is it really your fault that they're upset? Or are they projecting their emotions onto you? By recognizing the manipulation, you can start to detach emotionally and protect your energy from their negative influence. Setting boundaries. The most effective way to protect your energy from toxic people is by setting clear boundaries. Boundaries are not about building walls to isolate yourself from others. They are about establishing healthy limits to preserve your well-being. When you set boundaries, you are teaching others how to treat you. For example, if a friend or family member is consistently blaming you for their problems or making you feel responsible for their emotions, you might say, "I understand you're upset, but I cannot take responsibility for your feelings. I am here to support you, but I cannot fix things for you." By setting these limits, you're signaling that you will no longer tolerate being blamed or manipulated. While some toxic individuals may react negatively to this, it's a necessary step for protecting your energy. Boundaries allow you to retain your emotional health and ensure that you are not being drained by others' problems. Letting go of negative relationships. Letting go of toxic relationships is often the hardest part of protecting your energy, especially when the person involved is someone you care about deeply. However, it's important to realize that your emotional well-being is non-negotiable. If a relationship is constantly draining you or making you feel less than, it may be time to let go. This doesn't mean that you have to completely cut off all relationships, but it does mean reassessing the dynamics and making tough decisions. Sometimes, walking away from a toxic person is the most loving thing you can do for both yourself and the other person. If you stay in a toxic relationship out of guilt or fear, you are enabling their harmful behaviors and sacrificing your own peace. Once you begin to let go of these negative relationships, you will start to feel an incredible shift. You'll find more space in your life for people who genuinely care about you and bring positivity into your world. Letting go of toxic people is not a selfish act. It's an act of self-preservation. By making room for healthy relationships, you open yourself up to experiencing joy, support, and mutual respect. The power of positive relationships. When you create space by releasing toxic people, you'll find that you have room to invite more positive, authentic relationships into your life. These are the people who encourage you, uplift you, and help you grow. They are not concerned with controlling or manipulating you. They are your allies, your true friends, your partners in life. Positive relationships are built on trust, mutual respect, and open communication. They make you feel supported and loved rather than drained or criticized. These relationships can help you navigate life's challenges with a sense of security and confidence. Knowing that you have a solid support system behind you, the more you protect your energy and prioritize your well-being, the more you'll attract people who resonate with that energy. When you surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries and nurture your growth, you'll find that your life becomes filled with more love, joy, and authenticity. Conclusion. In conclusion, protecting your energy is not only about avoiding toxic people, but also about reclaiming your own power. Toxic individuals often blame others to deflect attention from their own issues, but you don't have to internalize their criticisms or accept their manipulations. By recognizing toxic behaviors, setting boundaries, and letting go of negative relationships, you create space for positivity and growth. When you make room for healthy, authentic connections, you will find that your life becomes more fulfilling and meaningful. So, protect your energy, trust your instincts, and remember that you deserve relationships that lift you up, not drain you. Letting go of toxic people might be difficult, but the rewards are far greater. Peace, happiness, and the freedom to truly be yourself. If you found this video valuable, hit like to support the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss future content. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.